I came across this feather at home the other day. It's another one of the cat's toys. And I want to try and capture the detail of this and get really in close. Now, I do have a macro lens for my smartphone here, but one of the things that I've found is that lighting can be an issue. When you get really close and you block out a lot of the available light. So I've got one of the lights that I often use for smartphone photography, but I'm not going to use it in the conventional way, kind of like shining on top, often because your camera is on top and that's not going to work that way. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to backlight my subject. I'm going to let the light shine through, and I have a hunch that's going to make a real treat out of this feather. Let's have a look at what light we get out of this. Here we go. So one of the problems for me with these is that the lighting is quite harsh, it's quite direct, and it creates these kind of hot spots on the surface of the subject that's shining through. What I want to do is to kind of diffuse, to soften this light somewhat. And to do that, I'm going to use some books. So I'm just going to create a kind of over-the-top thing for these. It's going to be like a little tent. And I've got some kitchen towel here. Just pop that inside one book, that inside the other, and pop that over the top. And you can see what's happened now, that the light is still there, but it's much softer. And because we've got a distance between the light and this bit of kitchen towel, my diffusion panel here, means there's actually quite a larger area that the light's going to shine through. But because I'm shining through this kitchen towel, I'm just going to turn it up a little bit because we do lose a little bit of that brightness. I think that should do. We don't want to introduce another hot spot, but let's see how that does for us. Put the feather on. There we go. Right, so the light is much more even now. I can, even with my naked eye, begin to see those lines in a feather. Far fewer hot spots there. Let's get the camera out and see what it looks like through there. Now, one of the challenges that you have with some modern smartphones, there are multiple camera lenses. When you are attaching a macro lens, which of the lenses do you attach it onto? So I'm just going to open up the camera app here. Now this smartphone has actually got a few different lenses on there. It's got a 5 times optical zoom. I want to use an optical zoom rather than a digital zoom too, so we're not degrading the image. So I think it's that top left-hand camera. There we go. So make sure that lens is right over the top of that. There we go. Oh, wow. Okay. So I'm tuned right into the image there. And without this macro lens, I wouldn't be able to get my camera this close. So the first thing that you notice is it's very, very sensitive. We are shooting very close to the subject here. So any little wobbles do have a big impact on the screen. So it's helpful, actually, these books are useful to be able to rest my hand upon. Still need to be able to tap focus. There we go. So it's, but at least now there's plenty of light. There we go. Just find the optimum height, tap focus, and then gently trigger. There we go. So one effect to play with, because of this shallow depth of field, is angling your phone, because you can go top down, and therefore, providing your subject's flat, everything's going to be in focus or out of focus. Or you can angle ever so slightly, so some bits of your subject are closer and some bits are further away. And because of the really shallow depth there, that means that only the middle bit is going to be in focus, and these lines going backwards will be out of focus. And you can have a play with that. So I've got the lines very horizontal there. Let's see if we can have a look at some other angles. Get some jauntier angles across. There we go. Oh, yeah. So you've got the main kind of vein down the middle of the feather. Let's have a look and see what that gives us, because that can create a nice compositional line, kind of leading line. Let me see if I angle the camera that way. Yeah, there we go. And we're really seeing the detail there. I'm actually going to turn the feather the other way up now. Okay. Wow. Okay, so here's something that you don't notice, is that the feather, it looks very different depending on which way up you have it. Now, this feather doesn't want to sit down all that neatly this way up, but that's, again, giving us a little bit more of a dynamic image to play around with. That's great. And tap and focus. Right, let's take a look, see what we've got. So this was the first shot, and look how sharp these lines look. I mean, compare that to what the feather looks like with the naked eye. It barely looks like it's the same subject at all, and that's how close we're able to get with a macro lens and adding the zoom, the optical zoom lens on here. That's great, and I think the backlight really helps to create that contrast that might have been difficult to get otherwise. It's good, most of it's in focus. We're a little bit blurry at the bottom there, just because it's so difficult to get everything in focus on one of these macro shots. Okay, so here's where I went for the horizontal lines. This looks like it's, I don't know, an aerial shot of some fields or something. And I think I was shooting at the angle rather than top down. So only this middle line is in focus, and further away and closer to it is out. Really interesting. This is lovely. This is when I turn the feather over, and you can see the difference in the grain of the feather and the little hairs that are in there. There's the main stalk of the feather across the bottom, and then the individual veins coming off of it. Such delicate detail, and you can even pinch and zoom in and start to see the individual hairs on there. It's beautiful. And then finally this one here. And I think if you were to show this to somebody and they didn't know that you've been taking a picture of the feather, they would assume it's a piece of fabric that you've gone really tight in on. And that's the marvellous thing about nature. When you zoom right in and see the detail, it's very difficult to work out what it even is. But this is probably one of my favourite in an abstract kind of way, because it looks so different from, what we see the object in with our naked eye. Really, really pleased with that.